future. And when I started to get really involved in climate activism was when it started to really hit home for me. You can't have a booming fossil fuel economy and safe and happy families. Those two things cannot exist simultaneously. We're driving through Haldeman County. My mom used to work at what she calls the Holy Trinity. So that was a industrial park that had a coal-fired power plant, a steel mill, and an oil refinery.
What this did is it mirrored a lot of our feelings of hopelessness and distrust with government, but also opened the discussion up to a variety of perspectives. And I really appreciate the different groups that have been formed out of these anxieties for a better world. And the Indigenous perspective, I thought, was extremely apt of an act of resistance in maintaining culture. But I thought this was really well laid out. I loved following the researcher's journey and letting us into that. And I really appreciate the intimacy and the open, candid nature of the subjects in talking about this, which made it feel very conversational.
Really felt like a conversation of a film. It wasn't hammering home a solution or telling us that we need to not have children for the future, but it was opening up this conversation to be had. The ethics behind bringing children into a world that with an unsure future. And I loved how we had so many different perspectives on this. How some people believe we shouldn't be bringing kids into this world when our climate is falling apart like this. Then others believe that it is the only way to, make sure our planet is preserved is by having children that carry on our legacy and carry on our culture, especially when that culture is indigenous. We had a woman talking about how to lose her culture and her people for her and her people and her culture, that would be the end of the world for them. So that's why they must continue to pass their culture down to their children and continue to have babies like that, versus other people, believing that it is unethical to bring children into this world. I just thought it was super interesting to have so many different perspectives. And even we had film of people actively discussing this and bringing up points and arguing, not necessarily arguing, but, having that conversation. And I loved that we ended on a note of hope. I thought that was really important because I think it is hope that keeps people going and keeps people fighting for the cause. Because if we believe that there's no hope, of course, so we will just give up. But I enjoyed the note of hope at the end for the future and especially for the youth and what they bring to the table and what they believe in and what they're fighting for.
The overarching trauma, in a sense, of making a decision of making that decision to have kids while being acutely aware of the state of the world. So it addresses the question of, should women have kids during this time? And has a conversation about the dilemma of having the dream to have a kid while also not wanting to take on the guilt of contributing to the climate crisis. So this documentary was really informative. It had really good narration. And I think one of the best parts of it is that I can tell that the people in this documentary are so passionate about the cause and the conversation that they're discussing. It also just had really solid technical elements, from the videography to the sound design. I think that helped tie it together and make it a really good, entertaining, informative watch.
I can say I was not aware of this particular movement of young women, pledging to not have kids until proper action has been taken concerning climate change. So I learned something new here. So that's good. Well, a lot of times you start watching an environmental doc, you're like, okay, I know about this. I know oil's bad and all these things, but I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but I'm just saying the point I'm trying to make is that this brought me something new that I hadn't learned before. So, that's definitely a good thing. The most interesting and best part of this film to me is when the woman says, hope we think it's something that's out there that we have to capture, but we can be hope free and start taking action, and we create hope by working together. That was a very profound and truthful statement. Really, that defined the whole piece for me. That really made the movie worth it to me. That statement really made everything fall in line, and it applies to everything in life. But applying it specifically here, it was very helpful to the whole piece. Everything, all the information given out was stated so clearly and so well. All the interviews were conducted so well. Everybody spoke so plainly and clearly. Everybody knew what they were talking about. They were all experts.
A conversation that is not an easy one. It's the elephant in the room. It is scary, terrifying for young people, both men and women. The idea of bringing children into a world that is been dying and has been dying for a long time. I felt that this piece did a great job at approaching this difficult topic from a community standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, from a humanitarian standpoint. It realizes that the reverberations of such an ethical and moral and physical dilemma is multifaceted. And that's exactly how it treats it, as it needs to be treated, the only way it can be treated. And by the end, there is that glimmer of hope. But as it's pointed out, even if there's not hope there, we must create it through action.
I love how this documentary tries to shine a light on the ever-growing climate change crisis across the globe. And in this documentary, one of its central focuses are, should women have kids, even though there might not be a future for their kids to live in. And I think that this was a great and different approach to the crisis of climate, which doesn't get often spoken about, especially with how little people take serious, how they don't take this serious, because it's an issue that we've come accustomed to, I guess. But I think that this documentary really works because it shows the dedication to the filmmakers and the people that's been interviewed to keeping this world safe and to bring a better future to those coming.
I think it's very interesting to hear and understand how having a kid, a baby in this time is really related to the situations in the world ecologically, and they gave us like all the reasons, all the information that we got to know, and why do we need to concern about what's going on the earth, in the air, and in the water, to make sure like the lives that gonna raise after this like would have like a happy and healthy life. And this one is very well narrated with the interviews, with the footages, and with the knowledge that they have been well researched like throughout. So this is really important topic to understand like how we need to take care of the world to make sure like the next generations will have a happy life and healthy life after this too.